This week we're at Eugene Makerspace to build a modular Olympic lifting platform. Normally, these platforms, from what I've seen, are 8 feet by 8 feet, and they're square. And that's really big, and I can't actually fit that in my garage. I don't have enough room to dedicate to just this. So what we're going to do actually is cut it in half, get rid of one half of it, because you don't really need all that space. You can lift on just one side. And then, because this is still really big and we're not going to be able to transport it, and it's going to be hard to move with just one person, what we're going to do is actually cut into 3 pieces. So the center piece will be 4 by 4, and it'll basically be 3 layers of plywood attached together. The bottom 2 will be screwed together and glued, and the top layer will be glued on. And then these side pieces will be 2 layers of plywood screwed together with a layer of a horse stall mat on top. And that should work out really well. So these will be 2 by 4, these will be 4 by 4, and we'll have 3 pieces that should be much easier to move and transport. So let's get started. For this project, you'll need a 3/4 inch thick, 4 foot by 6 foot horse stall mat. I found this one at a farming supply store for about $40. You're also going to need 3 4 foot by 4 foot pieces of 3/4 inch plywood. I had the hardware store cut these all up for me. The last major component is 4 4 foot by 2 foot sections of that same 3/4 inch plywood. Once you've selected the bottom piece of plywood, you need to spray it down with some regular water. The reason is because that's what the instructions on the Gorilla Glue bottle say to do. Then apply a good amount of Gorilla Glue, but for this part we won't need too much because it'll also be screwed down. Lay the second layer of plywood on top and align it as best you can. Then drill down the 4 corners to hold everything in place. Once that's done, secure it down with a whole bunch more screws. We didn't worry about exact placement. The top layer is only going to be glued down. That way the top can be a nice wood surface with no screws showing. So we set this down on a small table, sprayed it down, and we applied a good amount of glue. Since there's no screws holding on the top, we wanted to make sure it's nice and secure. Then we carefully laid the top piece in place. After that, we clamped down the 4 corners. We used a couple small pieces of scrap wood to make sure the top didn't get dented from the clamps. Then we used a hammer to help align everything. After that, we realized we'd need to clamp the sides as well. Finally, we set a really heavy object on top, right in the middle. The glue will need a few hours to fully dry. Next we had to build the side panels. These are built very similarly. First spray, and then glue. Align the wood pieces. Screw in the 4 corners just like before. And then put in a whole bunch more screws. The difference here is that we're only going to have 2 layers of plywood. The third layer is going to be made from the stall mat. We laid the wood panel down on top of the stall mat and traced a line along the edge. Then we used a jigsaw to cut the mat down to size. Then the mat has to get glued on top. This will also have no screws. Make sure you put the bumpy side of the mat down and the smooth flat side face up. Set the mat down and carefully align it. Then make another 2x4 panel, the same as this one. Once they were done, we set one panel on top of the main platform. Then we set the other one on top face down. In hindsight, this wasn't the best idea because the foam started to fall off when we flipped it over. It would have been smarter to assemble it upside down in place already, but it worked out in the long run. Then we clamped the whole thing together on the sides. And finally, we placed the heavy object back on top. After a few hours of dry time, we thought we were all done. We ended up with this. It looked pretty good, but there was one small problem. The edges didn't line up, and it really bothered us. So we decided to fix that with a jigsaw. The jigsaw made pretty good work of it, and it actually came out pretty straight. You can see here that it looks so much better. The last step was to sand down the top of the big platform and the edges of all the platforms. This just makes everything look better and smoother, and this is what we ended up with. Perfectly good, modular, portable lifting platform. Alright, so I'm back at home. I've got the platform set up, and it seems to work just fine. I hope this video is useful to you, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like or subscribe.